I recently made a video covering everything in the custom games update for Astroneer. However, that video had a lot of information in it, which can be a lot to process all at once if you're not a genius such as myself. Therefore, I, in all my epicness, have condensed the most important custom games update features into a short and concise top 5 video, because top 5 videos get views, even if they suck. Coming in at number 5 is going to be research settings. Now, I don't know if you could tell in the intro, because I haven't done the intro yet, but my nose is very stopped up, and I can't even blow it, so we're just gonna have to make peace with this stupid nasally voice I've got going on. But the reason we're doing research settings for number 5 is because it's a very useful part of the game. It's more of an early game thing than a late game thing because, let's face it, in Astroneer, it's really not that hard on default settings to get all the bytes you need for everything pretty dang quickly. In the bytes part of this page, there is starting research bytes, and that's very self-explanatory. Whatever number you put right here is the amount of bytes you'll start off with. This obviously must be a number, because you cannot, it has to be a number. Research reward multiplier, also pretty self-explanatory. It multiplies how much you get for anything, whether it be research items, research samples, anything that gives you bytes, I'm pretty sure, even including missions, I would say. I haven't actually tested this, I'm just talking. Research speed multiplier is pretty self-explanatory as well. If you put something in the research chamber, then you will get this multiplier for how fast it researches, and both of these multipliers range from 0.1 to 10. 0.1 being 10 times as slow, and 10 being 10 times as fast, or 10 times as much, depending on which one of these it is. Which leaves us with the bundled recipes part of this tab, which basically just means whatever you check can never be gotten unless you find it in the world. So, disable vehicles right here, right? That means we can't craft any of the stuff that popped off to the side here because we can't unlock them. And if you can't unlock them, you cannot craft them, which means if you cannot find them, which you can't for most vehicles, it's just going to cease to exist forever. So, be very careful with that. Coming in at number 4 is going to be oxygen settings. And this is something that we've all thought about. It was probably the first thing that most of us noticed when we first started playing Astroneer, is that, you know, your character kind of runs out of oxygen fast. And that's a little weird because, that's not how spacesuits actually work. And so now, we can make it happen. We can make our dreams come true. The oxygen consumption multiplier is just that. So if we slide this all the way to the left, we will use oxygen 10 times less as much. That's not a real sentence. But anyways, we'll use it less if we slide it to the left, and more if we slide it to the right. That's the direction you need to go if you want to use less, is to the left. And I don't know who would want to go to the right, because you already run out of oxygen pretty quick, but apparently those people exist. They're real. They're out there, and they do that, so the setting's there for them. Psychopaths. Anyways, free oxygen just means you'll never run out, and if that's you, then click that button. That's probably closer to realistic than anything else you can do in here, so, actually, it's not. So anyways, that's all for this one. Coming in at number 3 is going to be planet modifiers. Now, planet modifiers are pretty big because they are a sub-modification that has sub-modifications. So what do I mean by that? Well, here is a main modification. We can modify a planet. Let's pick one. Let's pick one that doesn't suck like Glacia. And then we have 2 more modifiers. But the one we're covering is add planet modifier, and it has sub modifiers. So you see what I mean? There's a lot of settings in here, but this is the one we're covering specifically, is the add planet modifier ones, and there are only 4. Now these are basically self-explanatory, but for the sake of understanding certain things, I will still go over them. For example, gravity, you know what that does. It makes the planet's gravity stronger or weaker, but I will also click on it so you can see what the multiplier for that is. And you can make the gravity 10 times weaker by a 0.1 multiplier, or you can make it 3 times stronger by a 3 multiplier. So that's the multiplier on that. Pretty self-explanatory, like I said, but you do want to know the multiplier probably. Next up is seed, and you know what seed is because that's pretty self-explanatory as well. However, something I would like to note here is that this is special because Astroneer has seeds for each planet. So you can have any combination of planet seeds that you want. So if you find a good seed for a bunch of different planets on a bunch of different saves, you can still bring those seeds together into one save if you do the seeds individually for a custom configuration. Next up is ambient wind rate, and by my understanding, ambient wind rate doesn't actually affect anything actually. It's more of a visual thing. Pretty sure it's just the speed at which the wind blows. I don't know yet, by the way, but I also don't know how to figure out because it doesn't say anything, and it'd be kind of weird to test this, but I'm pretty sure it's how fast the wind blows, like I said, and you might be thinking, okay, well then it does affect the game because it'll make my wind power more effective, but it won't, because wind power in this game is either at its max output or 0 output. If the wind's blowing just a little bit, your wind is doing the same amount of power as if it was blowing all the way. It's just visual. That's how wind works in this game. So if I'm correct, an ambient wind rate is just wind speed. It doesn't affect anything at all. It just looks different. Random wind gust rate, however, is in fact very much so a thing that will affect your wind's output because it's how often the wind blows. I think. I know I'm saying I think a lot, but it's really hard to test some of this stuff, okay? This is a pretty good guess. I don't know what else this would be. Pretty sure it's just how often the wind blows, which means, yes, the more you slide this up, the more often you will get wind power. And then if you slide it all the way down, you just don't get any of that stuff. Coming in at number 2 is going to be another thing that is in Modified Planet. In fact, the only other thing that is in Modified Planet, except for the one we just covered, and that is Modified Biome. Now, just like Add Planet Modifier, this is rather extensive because it has subcategories, as you can see. However, it's even more extensive because its subcategories have subcategories. But it's not actually confusing. I just made it sound confusing by the way I explained it just then. Basically, every single one of these biomes has options to them, but they all have the same options. So all I have to do is pick one of these and show you what options you have for all of them. Now, real quick before I go into this, I'm just going to say that all of these biomes, you probably know what they are, except maybe this one, because I was kind of confused about it at first. This is just the ravines. That's what the crevices biome is, so just wanted to clear that up real quick. Now I'm going to click a random biome, and we can show you the settings for that biome. And again, all biomes have these exact settings, so this is just an example that will work for any of them. Biome weight is a pretty big one because it basically allows you to dictate how common a biome will be in relation to the other biomes. So as you can see here, there is a multiplier that scales how often this biome is going to exist on a planet. Now you may be thinking, oh, if I put this to the max, this is the only biome I will have. But that's not how it works. If you want to have all of just a single biome, you must turn all the other biomes all the way down to 0 instead of just turning the one you want to have all the way to the max. So that's just a little thingy you might want to know. Past that though, we have POIs, and that is points of interest, which basically just means little like areas where there's crash stuff and things of that nature. Pretty self-explanatory. Decorators, look, I hate to say this in a video where I'm telling you about an update, but I actually don't know what that is, and I don't know how to figure out what that is, so I just don't know. So, you know, I guess I'm formally going to apologize for that now and move on. Puzzles is there's these things that appear on certain planets that you can unlock. They look like pyramids, kind of. You know, they're triangular pyramids. Yeah. Anyways, they have research inside of them, and you can unlock them by various methods. They're each different. There are different ones that you can unlock, and that's what puzzles are. And then resources. This is like the stuff you mine. You know, you got the veins of resources. Now, in the video where I covered the entire update, I said that this is how common the veins are, but I was corrected by people in the comments, because apparently it's not how common they are, it's how much is in them, right? And it's how big these veins are, how many resources you would get for each vein. So that's what resources does. It's a multiplier. You can get a ton of resources from a single vein, apparently, with that, so fun. And then snail shells. That's how common snail shells are. Coming in at number 1, the greatest addition to the Custom Games Astroneer update, in my opinion, which is fact, will be respawn settings, which is basically, you know, hardcore mode. You can make this hardcore mode, you can make it so that you have 1 life, and if you die, whoops. Now, obviously, first things first, what you do to make that happen is click this limit respawns button right here. If you do this, then the number down here means something, right? This does not matter down here at all if this is not activated. So once you activate this, this takes effect. Now, here's something you need to take note of. Having 1 life does not mean you are done when you die. This is actually additional lives. So if you want it to be hardcore mode, you will slide this down to 0, therefore you have 0 extra lives. So if you want 1 life, actually you want 0 lives. That's how it works in Astroneer for some reason. Pretty confusing stuff, but you can slide this all the way up to 100 lives. You can have that many if you want. To me, like, if you're gonna do that many, just, why not just do infinite? But anyways, no, I mean, yeah, really, who dies 100 times though? Really? Like, come on. But anyways, this is another option though right here, and this one's kind of weird and probably like, yeah, it's just kind of weird. This means that everyone saves lives, basically. If you turn this off, then everybody will share lives. So if you have 0 lives, and you turn this off, and 1 person dies, it's all over. So, you know, I guess, you know, lack of accountability there. Your mistakes are everyone's problems in life, and that's just sad and stuff. Yeah, that's it. I don't want to do an outro, because if you couldn't tell, my nose is stuffed up. I already said that, didn't I? Yeah. I can't breathe right now. I'm dying slowly. So I thought I'd make a video real quick before I died.